Hey everyone, what's going on? It's a gloomy morning in New York. It is Wednesday. And welcome to my channel again. Welcome to Designer Head. For those of you who are new here, this is a channel that I talk about design, my rants, my opinions. I talk about transitioning into UX and product design as well, and some other voiced opinions. I'm gonna be a little bit of a slower level today, not as hyped as I typically am in my conversations and my videos. Today is, as I mentioned, is a bit of a gloomy day in New York. It's raining, and so I decided to do this kind of a morning chat with a cup of coffee. So for those of you who are new, once again, please like, subscribe, and hit that bell icon so you know every time I release a new video. And without further ado, let's hit it. All right, so today's conversation is going to be a little bit different. Apart from me talking previously about different parts of hiring and job hunting and everything else, today I want to talk about one specific part, which is part of me. Something that I've been doing for the last probably 2 decades, but I was doing it on a more slowed down, if you will, level, and that would be mentoring. I see a lot of people getting into mentorship recently, becoming mentors or becoming mentees, looking for mentors and so forth. And luckily we have the technology for it. Luckily we have platforms that allows people to seek mentorship or seek mentors or provide mentorship and so forth. And I wanted to answer a few questions to people who ask me about mentorship specifically, and the reason why I am doing what I'm doing, and the reason why I became a mentor some years ago, and the reason why I continue mentoring, and the reason why I am trying to mentor as many people as I can on a weekly basis. It's not always possible. Sometimes time does not allow, and that's why people cannot find time on my calendar. However, I do have open slots for 3 people a week, at least right now. Before that, it was more on steroids, especially during 2020. I mentored anywhere between, I would say, 5 to 7 people a week, which was proved to be a lot, and so I had to tone it down because it just was taking too much of my time. So, how did I become a mentor? And honestly, there wasn't a moment for me that I kind of decided that, you know what, I should mentor people. Nope, that wasn't the case. It was actually really, really interesting and really different, I would say, at least for me. So some years ago, if I remember correctly, around 2006, 7 or thereabouts, I was an art director at an agency, and I had about a dozen or so designers on my team. And some of them started kind of coming to me with questions, but not necessarily questions related to whatever they were working on, the projects themselves, but more with questions of, how do I become you, right, an art director? Or how do I progress in my career? Or I want to do X, Y, and Z as a designer, but I don't know where to start and I don't know what to do. But there was one person, I'm not gonna call him out by name, but there was one specific designer that came to me one day, and he wasn't necessarily a professionally trained quote unquote designer. He was just somebody who learned how to do a few things with Photoshop, and his job at the company at the time was basically just, as we used to call those, at least in my day, the design executioners. And so these are people essentially that do all the tedious small jobs that typically designers didn't want to do, such as design some icons, do some buttons, make some layouts, Photoshop some pictures and stuff like that. Find assets if we needed specific assets. So I remember him coming to me and talking to me about Flash, Macromedia Flash. At the time, it was Macromedia Flash. Now it's, I think it's called Adobe Animate, because Adobe acquired Macromedia Flash 2010-ish or something like that. I don't remember. Don't quote me on that. But anyway, he came to me and said that he's really interested in that, and he would like to learn it, and then how does he actually goes and becomes a, I guess, motion graphics designer. And so it was the first time that I kind of went out and advocated for one of my team members to have a course, to, you know, have the company pay for the course, because before that, I don't think the company paid for anybody's education whatsoever. And so we did. We sent him to, I think it was a 2 or 3 month quick course for Macromedia Flash. He came back and he became really good. He was really good at that. And periodically we would have conversations about his career and future trajectory and where he wants to go, what he wants to do, and how. And we would talk about what, you know, next steps and how, and I guess which next things he should be learning or educating himself on or reading. And so I think that was the first time. And again, post-mortem, I kind of realized that I was mentoring. Because to me, at the time, it wasn't necessarily... Here's what I found. My Siri decided to talk. At the time, I didn't really saw it as mentoring. I just had a conversation with one of my team members. He came to me with a question, and I always was there to answer the question and support him in any way I could. And only later, I would say some years later, I realized that, oh shit, I was mentoring somebody. Today, he's an art director himself and successful designer, which is obviously, you know, good to see, and I'm glad to see that somebody that I had these conversations eventually rose and grew and became what he really wanted to become in this industry. So later on, I think when LinkedIn became a thing and more of a professional level, periodically I would get messages on LinkedIn from different people from around the world asking me questions about design, asking me questions about branding, asking me questions about UX and how to move into the industry, how to become a designer. They're already a designer, a junior. How do I become a mid-level? How do I move into senior level? How do I move into management? How do I talk to my stakeholders? How do I talk to users? How do I talk to my team members? How do I talk to product, engineering, and so forth? And so periodically I would take on anywhere between, I would say, maybe 2 or 3 designers throughout the year that I would kind of spend some time periodically every couple of months to have a conversation about their career and how to go and how to move forward with that. It wasn't something that I planned to do. It wasn't something that I eagerly wanted to do. It's just something that happened, and I was always there to support, help, and answer any questions from anyone who was reaching out to me for those answers or asking me questions. Even at the times when I did not have the answers, I would literally just go dig the internet and do some research and find the answers and come back to the person and say, okay, here's what I found. Read this book, go and take this course, or, you know, do this, do that, or try this, try that. Now the thing took a very interesting turn of events, obviously with the pandemic. And essentially what happened during the pandemic was suddenly we have time. And to give you kind of a perspective of my time, I used to, so my last company, the one that I worked for before the pandemic and the first year of the pandemic, I live in New York, and at the time I lived in Brooklyn, and the company located in Manhattan, in Midtown Manhattan. And so I'm a cyclist. I got into cycling actually in 2017, surprisingly, which I've never been a cyclist, but my coworker at that company kind of challenged me, and I accepted the challenge, and long story short, I became a cyclist, and I started to commute to work by a bike. So instead of a subway or a car, I would ride my bike to work. And riding my bike was 12 miles each way, which meant that it took me anywhere between an hour and 10 to 15 minutes to almost an hour and a half each way on a bicycle. Why? Because bike lanes, traffic, traffic lights, other issues, weather conditions, and whatnot took me a while. So essentially, I was spending about 3 hours, if not more, because on the way back I would stop at this bike shop that I really liked. The guys there, and that was my kind of like a mental offload and relaxation after work. That I'd just stop at the bike shop and just shoot the shit with the guys that have nothing to do with my industry, but were amazing people. Really fun, really smart, really interesting to just talk about bikes and bike industry and bike components and helmets and lighting, cameras, accidents, and so forth. And so I would spend anywhere between 3, sometimes 3.5 hours a day just in this kind of a commute part. And so when the pandemic hit and we all kind of started working from home, suddenly I found that I have this 3 hours a day free. At first it was kind of liberating, of like, wow, I have all this time now to do whatever I want with it. I don't have to get up at 6 a.m. and leave the house by 7:30 or 8 in order to be at the office by 9:30. I mean, granted, I still get up at 6:30 a.m. in the morning. Why? Because I've been doing it for the last couple of decades, so I'm really used to it. By now, it's a habit. But now I have all this time to kind of sit down and quietly and peacefully and have the time to not only have my breakfast and have my coffee, but also read some news, maybe read a book, go through emails, I don't know, talk to people, answer people questions they leave me on LinkedIn. And that was the time, I think around April, around April-ish, May-ish. Around April, I would say, that when Felix Lee reached out to me. He's, for those of you who don't know, he's one of the co-founders of ADP List. Reached out to me on LinkedIn and said, hey, we're doing this thing for all of the designers and creatives that lost their jobs because of the pandemic due to COVID-19. Companies were doing massive layoffs of people because of all the uncertainties that was happening. And he created this Google Sheet. That's all it was. It was just a Google Sheet at the time. And he called it the Amazing Design People List. What he created essentially was a list of people who were laid off, lost their job, and were looking for help to help them refine or rebuild or adjust or make their portfolios better. And so he started reaching out to different design leaders and seniors and whatnot, senior designers and design recruiters, to see if he can add us to the list so we can provide that help, support, mentorship, feedback loop, critique and whatnot to designers that did lost their jobs, so we can help them get back on the horse really quickly and put them back into the workspace, the workforce. When he reached out to me and he asked me if that's something I'll be interested to join, I literally did not think about it twice. I said yes, absolutely. I still have a job. I was lucky and I was happy that I still had a job at the time when a lot of creatives, design leaders, managers, designers, whoever, you name it, doesn't matter what was your position, rank, seniority, if the company at the time decided to kind of cut loose one of the things that they did not consider the most vital to the company's survival, which I would argue the difference here. The design team is vital to the company's survival, but what do I know of after doing this for almost 25 years? Anyway, I was on board. I was on board because I'm a big believer in giving back to the community and helping other designers, to the point that back in 2011-ish, I would say 2010, 11, 12, for those several years, I have ran a nonprofit organization in Israel that was helping freelancers to start their freelancing business. And through our nonprofit organization, we offered such services as accounting, legal advice, lawyers, business setup, and stuff like that, all for free for all of our members. It was all for free, and we didn't charge any membership fees or anything like that. So yes, I am a big believer in helping the community and giving back. Why? Because I never had that. When I was starting out as a designer back in early 2000s and late 90s, I did not have anyone to turn to and say, hey, I need help. Hey, I don't understand this, or I don't understand that. I don't know how this thing works. I don't know what should I read in order to get better at X, Y, and Z. There was no one there for me for that. For one single reason, I had 0 designers in my entire kind of a friend vicinity loop or circle, if you will. I had some creatives, I had some photographers, I had some painters and musicians, writers, but no designers. And so, yeah, we would talk about our creative kind of problems and, creative blocks and whatnot, but we never actually talked about, I'm having this issue with my boss, or I'm having this issue with my client, or I need to design a website for X, Y, and Z company, and they're asking for a very specific thing, and I don't know which tech or which software to use for that specific thing that they're looking for or asking for. I had none of that, so I had to literally spend hours upon hours on then limited existing internet to try and dig through as much documentation and reading materials that I could find to try and read and learn and understand the fuck am I supposed to do as a designer at the time. So yeah, when I became a little bit more, stable and a little bit more, I would say, successful as a designer and started making money in it and build a career, after I realized that I was mentoring people, I decided that yes, I want to give back to the community as much as I can at any moment that I could. And that meant sharing. And that meant really just sharing my knowledge, experience, expertise, and trying to help people to, I guess, not avoid the same mistakes I've made, or maybe not even avoid, but at least be more prepared for them, if you will. So yeah, I said yes. It was the beginning of 2020. It was a Google Sheet. From there on, I think Stephen Gates got involved in that as well around that time when I did, and because of him, which I think he was an instrumental force there to introduce ADP List to InVision, because Stephen Gates was part of the InVision at the time. And InVision was the first one to kind of give a probably financial and technological backing for ADP List to become an actual website, an actual platform, to start doing it on a much larger scale. And that's how we all kind of grew from there in that community. And so yeah, for 2020, I was basically mentoring on steroids. After 15 or so years of mentoring periodically here and there, a few designers a year. And I'm incredibly, incredibly thankful for the platform. I'm incredibly thankful for Felix Lee creating this platform and the community, because from dozens and hundreds of people that I've spoken to in the last couple of years, and thousands of people that went through my design sessions, I have learned a lot. I have grown as a leader myself, because one of the things that a lot of people don't understand about mentorship is it's not only you helping other people grow, it's other people that help you grow as a leader, as a designer, as a manager, as a people managing skills level improvements. All of these things essentially are incredibly helpful to anyone who is in any kind of position of leading people, regardless if it's one person that you're leading or 50. I think mentoring humbles you. Mentoring makes you more human, gives you a much broader kind of a empathy map to not only be empathetic to your users, but be more empathetic to other human beings, and opening up your eyes to things that you probably have not thought about or knew before, right? So that's why I mentor. I mentor because I truly enjoy it. I absolutely love helping other designers, and not only designers. I have a lot of people come to me that are not designers but looking to become designers, and I'm helping them to do so. Yeah, I just really love doing that. And I know people ask me periodically if I mentor outside of ADP list. I do. The answer is I do, but that's a very different relationship. When I do mentor people outside of ADP list on a long-term basis, then that is something that there is a financial part involved in that, just because of the time that I commit. I don't necessarily have a lot of time, and so I have to compensate somehow for the time. I don't have a specific financial model of how much I charge for mentorship and things like that. It's kind of individual. I'm not like I'm not a famous designer, if you will, that have been known everywhere and for many years, that charge, I would say, incredibly a lot and unfairly a lot, but to each his own. But yeah, regardless of that, I still mentor and I don't charge for that through ADP list. And there's no limitations of how much people can book time with me through ADP list. The only limitations you might have is finding the available time with me, which is typically 3 slots per week. So yeah, that's all I had to say. This lovely, rainy, cloudy morning in New York. As I mentioned, this channel is something where I'm going to be ranting as well and just sharing my thoughts, and this is one of those. So I hope this was helpful in any way to understand why I mentor and why I think leaders and people managers should mentor. If they have a knack for that, if they do enjoy it, and if they do want to do that. Obviously, I don't want people to do things they don't like, because then it's going to be just agonizing. But yeah, I do recommend that. And once again, if anyone wants to get mentored by me, feel free to find me on ADP list. It's my full name, and find a slot, book a time with me. You can also reach out to me on LinkedIn. I do answer everyone who asks me questions. I don't always answer right away, but I do answer as soon as I can. I wish everyone a great rest of the week. And once again, thank you for your time. I truly appreciate the time that you spent watching these videos. And this one is a long one. I'm looking at the time right now and it's 20-some minutes. That's a long one, yes. Thank you for your time. Thank you for coming to this channel. Thank you for watching my videos. I really appreciate that. And on that note, have an awesome rest of the week and never stop learning.